What if I told you that discipline has nothing to do with motivation, that everything you've been taught about staying consistent and being productive is wrong? We grow up believing discipline is a matter of willpower. If you're strong enough, focused enough, determined enough, you'll succeed. But here's the truth. Willpower always fails. Motivation fades. Inspiration dies. And then what's left? Guilt, frustration, and a sense of failure. Niccolò Machiavelli, the infamous political philosopher often remembered for his ruthless pragmatism, had a different take. He believed discipline wasn't about constant self-control or waiting for motivation to show up. It was about systems and leverage. It was about designing your environment and your habits so discipline becomes effortless, automatic, and powerful. In the next 25 minutes, we're going to explore Machiavelli's timeless secret to mastering discipline, a method so counterintuitive yet so powerful that once you understand it, you'll never look at self-control the same way again. Because discipline is not about being harder on yourself, it's about being smarter with yourself. Stay until the end, because we're not just talking theory. We're going to give you a framework you can start using today, one that turns discipline from a constant battle into something natural and unstoppable. And the best part, it doesn't take years to master. It doesn't require you to change who you are. It only takes 25 minutes. Most people think discipline is about waking up at 5 a.m., running on sheer willpower, and forcing themselves through pain until success magically happens. But if that worked, we wouldn't have a global productivity crisis. Everyone wants to be disciplined, yet most people quit their new habits within weeks. Why? Because they approach discipline as a fight against themselves. They think they need to overcome laziness, crush procrastination, and eliminate all weakness. But when you frame discipline as a constant war, you're always on the losing side because you are both the soldier and the enemy. The moment you feel tired or unmotivated, the war collapses. And here's the key. Machiavelli never fought wars he didn't think he could win. Machiavelli lived during one of the most unstable political periods in history. He saw empires rise and fall, leaders assassinated, and entire cities burned because of poor judgment. From this chaos, he learned something profound. Power is never about brute force alone. It's about strategy, leverage, and structure. And he applied this same philosophy to personal discipline. For Machiavelli, discipline wasn't about forcing people or even yourself to behave a certain way. It was about creating systems and incentives so powerful that the desired behavior becomes the easiest path to take. He understood something that modern psychology confirms. Human beings are driven more by their environment than by their willpower. If you design your environment the right way, your behavior naturally follows. Think about it. It's easier to eat healthy when your kitchen is full of nutritious food and junk food isn't within reach. It's easier to wake up early when your alarm clock is across the room and your phone is on airplane mode. It's easier to focus when distractions are removed rather than relying on mental toughness to resist them. This is the heart of Machiavelli's secret. Don't rely on willpower. Build systems that make discipline inevitable. Instead of trying to be better, design your life so even your worst days still push you forward. Machiavelli believed people naturally act out of self-interest and habit, not moral perfection. That might sound cynical, but it's actually freeing because it means you don't have to become superhuman to master discipline. You just need to be honest about your weaknesses and design around them. Nietzsche didn't want people to simply get over fear. He saw fear as a raw source of power. He believed fear points directly to the areas of life where transformation is possible. In his words, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But how? How does fear, especially fear of conflict, turn into strength? The will to power. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the idea of the will to power. It's the drive that pushes life itself forward, the desire not just to survive, but to grow, create, and dominate limitations. Most people misinterpret this. They think power means controlling others. For Nietzsche, real power is mastery over yourself, mastery over your fears, mastery over your impulses, mastery over the stories you tell yourself. Fear of conflict shows you where your growth is hiding. Afraid to speak up, that's exactly where your power waits. Afraid to challenge someone, that's where your freedom hides. Reframing conflict. Most of us see conflict as dangerous, but Nietzsche would tell you it's creative. Conflict is friction, and friction creates fire. Every breakthrough in human history, every invention, every movement, every revolution started with conflict. Someone said, "No, I don't accept things as they are," and from that, change was born. When you face conflict, you don't just challenge others, you challenge your own identity, and each time you do, you carve out a piece of yourself that's stronger, braver, and more authentic. Fear as a compass. Nietzsche believed fear is a compass. The things you avoid often hold the key to your freedom. The conversations you dread are often the ones that set you free. The actions that scare you most are often the ones that define your future. So instead of running from fear, Nietzsche invites you to lean into it. He'd say, follow your fear, because on the other side is your strength. Practical steps inspired by Nietzsche. 1. Name your fear. Say it out loud. I'm afraid of disappointing this person. Naming it takes away its power. 2. Visualize the outcome. Ask, what's the best possible result if I face this? Fear often hides opportunity. 3. Take a small step. Conflict doesn't have to mean chaos. Start with one boundary, one honest conversation, one no where you'd normally say yes. 4. Reflect and grow. After each confrontation, ask, what did I learn about myself? Every conflict becomes a lesson in strength. What conflict scares you the most right now? Write it down, even if it feels uncomfortable. That fear is not your enemy, it's your compass. Stick with me, because in the next part, we're going to look at the deeper freedom Nietzsche believed only comes from embracing conflict instead of running from it. For Nietzsche, freedom was not a gift someone gives you. It is not written on paper or handed down by a leader. Freedom, he believed, is something you take, and taking it almost always involves conflict. Most people think freedom means avoiding rules, avoiding pain, and avoiding tension. Nietzsche saw it differently. True freedom requires strength, and strength only comes from challenge, and challenge almost always creates friction. He used the metaphor of the tightrope walker, a person walking on a rope suspended between who they are and who they could become. Below is the safety of conformity, above is the risk of greatness. The rope itself, that's conflict, internal and external, pulling at your balance every step of the way. To Nietzsche, freedom wasn't comfort, it was risk, responsibility, and courage all rolled into one. Conflict with others. When you confront someone, when you speak a difficult truth, enforce a boundary, or stand for something you believe in, you risk rejection, anger, even loss. But in that moment, something else happens. You affirm your own existence. You say, I will not shrink myself to make others comfortable. And with each act like this, you carve away the false parts of your identity and strengthen the authentic ones. Conflict with society. Nietzsche believed societies often encourage obedience over originality. It's easier to control people who never question the rules, but genuine freedom means being willing to stand apart, even to stand alone if necessary. This is why Nietzsche admired what he called the Übermensch, or overmen, someone who creates their own values instead of blindly inheriting them. The Übermensch doesn't seek conflict for its own sake, but embraces it when necessary, knowing it is part of creating a life that is truly theirs. Conflict within yourself. Perhaps the hardest battle is the one inside, the voice that says, "Keep the peace, don't take risks, stay small." Nietzsche believed this voice must be challenged. He called it confronting your inner herd, the parts of you shaped by fear, comfort, and the desire to blend in. When you confront yourself, you discover parts of your character that have been waiting to emerge: courage, ambition, and authenticity. Nietzsche's message is clear. Conflict is not chaos. It is creation. It breaks old structures, old beliefs, and old limitations so new ones can be born. And if you want to be free, you must be willing to risk that process. Nietzsche didn't believe in waiting for courage to magically appear. He believed courage was forged, like steel, hammered into shape through deliberate action and struggle. The fear of conflict never fully disappears, but you can train yourself to move forward anyway, to act despite fear until conflict no longer controls you. Step 1. Redefine what conflict means. Most people see conflict as destruction, yelling, fighting, relationships breaking apart. But conflict doesn't have to mean chaos. Nietzsche would argue that conflict is truth in motion, two forces colliding, revealing what's real and what's not. When you see conflict as growth, not destruction, fear begins to lose its grip. Step 2. Train in small doses. You don't have to start with life-changing confrontations. Begin with small acts of courage. Say no to something you don't want to do. Express an honest opinion when it feels easier to stay silent. Set a boundary in one relationship where you've been compromising too much. Each time you face small conflict, your nervous system adapts, your confidence grows, and your fear response weakens. Step 3. Separate emotion from action. Fear of conflict often comes from emotional anticipation, imagining the worst possible outcome. Nietzsche believed strength comes from separating how you feel from what you choose to do. You can feel fear and still act. You can feel discomfort and still speak. The action is what matters. The emotion will catch up later. Step 4. Reflect, don't regret. After every confrontation, take a moment to reflect. Did I speak honestly? Did I protect my values? Did I stay true to who I want to become? Even if it didn't go perfectly, you'll see growth. Conflict is a skill like any other. You get better with practice. The long-term payoff. The more you face conflict, the less you fear it. And once the fear of conflict fades, something incredible happens. You become free. You're no longer living to please, avoid, or conform. You're living to express, to build, and to grow. Nietzsche believed the person who embraces conflict becomes something greater than just peaceful or nice. They become authentic, someone whose life is their own, someone who can look in the mirror and say, "This is who I am,
Imagine waking up
and I
tomorrow
am not
with no
afraid."
fear of conflict, no hesitation before saying what you truly think, no tightness in your chest when someone disagrees, no guilt when you protect your boundaries or pursue what matters to you. Take a moment and picture that life. How many choices would you make differently? How many doors would you finally walk through? How many relationships would change because you stopped hiding your voice? This is what Nietzsche meant when he said most people live in invisible chains. These chains are not made of steel. They are made of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of rocking the boat. We tell ourselves we're keeping the peace, but often we're just silencing ourselves. Nietzsche saw this as one of the greatest tragedies of modern humanity. We traded the wild uncertainty of freedom for the quiet comfort of obedience. We became, in his words, the last man, the one who seeks nothing but safety and avoids anything that stirs conflict. But in doing so, we also avoid life itself. Conflict as a gateway to freedom. Nietzsche believed freedom isn't something handed down by governments, partners, or workplaces. Freedom is something you take, and taking it almost always creates tension. Every act of claiming your life, saying no to what you don't want, saying yes to what terrifies you, shakes the status quo. When you finally speak your mind, someone might not like it. When you set a boundary, someone might push back. When you pursue your vision, people might laugh, doubt, or leave. Nietzsche's question to you would be, so what? Freedom is not the absence of conflict. Freedom is the ability to move through conflict without being owned by it. It's standing in discomfort and saying, this is my life. I will live it on my terms. Becoming the person who faces conflict. The person who faces conflict doesn't look for fights, but they don't run from them either. They've learned that silence often costs more than confrontation, and that every time you avoid conflict, you give away a piece of your life. Nietzsche called this path self-overcoming. Each time you confront fear, you evolve. You stop being a prisoner of old patterns and start becoming someone new, more honest, more resilient, more alive. That's the transformation Nietzsche believed was the highest human calling, to create yourself again and again through courage. Your moment of choice. Right now, you have a choice. Option 1, stay comfortable, keep your head down, avoid the conversations, keep the fake peace. You'll be liked, maybe even safe, but you'll never truly be free. Option 2, face one conflict today. Speak one truth, set one boundary, start telling the world and yourself who you really are. Nietzsche would say, choose freedom. Final call to action. If this message resonates with you, don't just let it fade. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and share this video with someone who's been avoiding their own battles. Then today, not tomorrow, not someday, take one step into a conflict you've been avoiding, because your freedom doesn't wait for permission. Your freedom begins the moment you stop running and start becoming who you really are.